Are you struggling to build your squad on Ultimate Team? If you're looking for cheap and fast FC26 coins, check out igm.com, the best source for reliable, cheap, and safe coins. Use my promo code NA at checkout to get 8% off. What's up, guys? In this video, we're going to be talking about the 4-4-2, and that was the first custom tactic I did for this game for FC26. And the 4-4-2 is always a really good formation, and it's been a good formation in every single FIFA video game since forever. However, I would say the most recent patch has made it even better, or the recent patches, if that makes sense. And I'll go over why later when we talk about the custom tactic. But it is generally a really good formation. One of the reasons being you defend in a 4-4 setup, if that makes sense. So you're going to have 4 defenders and 4 midfielders. Even though you have 2 wide midfielders, the left mid and the right mid, they're still going to act, as midfielders to begin with. They're going to be still on the same, the same position vertically with your center midfielders. So you're going to have a big wall of defenders, tracking back for you. With the mid of the game, this is really, really useful because you want to be able to have more defenders than the other player has attackers, because that will basically mean you can practically just defend without having to think too hard, if that makes sense. It's a similar concept of things like the 4-1-4-1, the 4-5-1. They might not have CDMs, or they might not have 2 CDMs, but they have so many options that drop deep, especially when you pair with the proper defensive style, that defending is going to be really easy. And as you can see, this is a squad that we use for it. I'm going to swap my Van Dijk back in, but for the most part, this is the squad. For defense and goalkeeper, very self-explanatory. Just get good players here. I'm sure you know what a good defender will look like. But for your midfielders, we spice things up a little bit. Try to get well-rounded players. Ideally, if you can get the box-to-box roll on them, that's going to be perfect. You don't need them, but if you can get them, that will help you a lot. Your 2 wingers, make sure they're as quick as possible. The faster the better, because this will affect the speed at when you can counterattack. I have Diani and Barnes here, and I put a speed chem style on Barnes at least. And a lot of counterattacks are going to be going through these guys instead of the strikers, because it's obviously easier to get a through ball to your wingers as they only have 1 defender on them, which is the fullback, than it is to your strikers who have both center backs right on them. But then when we get to the strikers, guys, Claudia Pina, as annoying as she is to use, she's very meta for I can't even talk. She's very meta for the very specific reason that she has tiki-taka and incisive pass. So you basically need to have her for the sake of link-up purposes. Now you can use something like Benzema, who I don't think has tiki-taka. Yeah, he has incisive, which is close enough if you don't have Pina or if you don't want to use Pina. But if you can get strikers with incisive and tiki-taka, and pair him in a dual striker formation with an actual striker, which I use Peter Crouch for. This guy's going to be my actual number 9, if that makes sense. He's going to be the guy that puts the ball in the net. Then she's valuable. And with this formation, you're going to be getting a lot of 1-2 passes, a lot of, moments where you can unlock the other team's defense with some quick passes. So having a player that can link up really well right here is going to be really important. And as you can see, these are the custom tactics right here. Code will be in top right in bigger text. And for the first time in my couple of view videos, we're doing build-up style balance, and usually we do short passing. I find short passing to be really useful nowadays, especially in this game. However, we're using balance because we're going to try to pride this formation on making more runs rather than just being a passing around option type thing. And I'll explain why when we talk about the roles later, because there's a bit of differences here that you see right now that you won't see in other custom tactics. But yeah, for now we're going to be doing build-up style balance. You can change it to short passing. It's not a major difference, but like I said, we're just trying to maximize the amount of good quality runs we can get, so we're using balanced. And the difference between balanced and short passing is not huge. It's not going to be a major game breaker. It's not going to be what makes or breaks most custom tactics, but we're talking about smaller but noticeable differences. And defensive approach balance. With balanced, it's a mixture of a decent press as well as players dropping deep. And when we have a 4-4 setup, like I mentioned earlier, we want to take advantage of that by using defensive approach balance. And the reason why I say that is because those left mid and right midfielders, they're going to drop deep and basically act as wide CDMs practically. Now imagine trying to attack against 8 defenders in the box. That's going to be a pain in the ass. So as annoying as it sounds to play against, that's what you want to play with if you want good quality defense, because that's obviously what's going to set apart one custom tactic defensively from another, how many defenders you can get. That's why things like the 3-4-1-2 and those 3-back formations, there's a reason why those suck, because you basically only have 3 defenders and the midfielders. But yeah, that's that. Player roles, we're doing 2 advanced forwards, and that's different than the last time where I did 1 advanced forward and then the other one on false line attack. Now, false line attack is still good, don't get me wrong. And even though I did say we're using both strikers, or we're using 1 striker for the purpose of link up, we're still going to be using 2 advanced forwards. And the reason why I say that is because with advanced forward, Think of that as a combination of every single other role in the game into one. And you're basically letting the AI decide every single second of the game which role they're going to switch to, you know? So sometimes they're going to go wide, sometimes they're going to drop a little bit deep to help midfielders, sometimes they're going to stretch play, sometimes they're going to make runs in behind. They do basically everything. Now you can obviously make them stretch even more wider if you have them on, I think, versatile, but we're just using them on 2 attack. And there's overall concept that we'll go over as I talk about the other roles, but right now it's worth mentioning that we're doing this for the sake of symmetry. Trying to keep 2 roles parallel with each other, that way there's no mismatches, and it'll make more sense when I talk about it with the midfielders. And speaking of which, we're doing both on box to box balance. Now first things first, with the box to box role, this is going to be really specific, but I'd figure I'd give some insight from what I've learned. With the box to box role, you basically cannot do it like where you have one box to box and the other on like whatever other role, like maybe holding or something like that, in a 2 center I can't even talk, sorry, in a 2 center midfielder setup. That's a tongue twister, sorry. And the reason why I say that is you technically could, but the reason why I say you shouldn't is the fact that you're only getting, you know, vertical movement from one half of the field. And obviously if that's what you want to do, you can do it, and it's not going to be like trash by all means. However, having the same player stepping up forward and the same player stepping back when they're divided vertically or horizontally, so it's always going to be the right side to defend, the left side that goes up, that just makes it more predictable, and you're really reducing how many chances you can create from just your center midfielders. Now the thing of having 2 players on box to box is that that's not going to necessarily open you up more defensively, because the thing with box to box, as you can see with how many green boxes you can see, is the fact that they're only going to step up whenever they see space. Now when we talk about the inside forward balance, which obviously if you've played, you know, even a bit of FC26, you know the importance and what the inside forward does. It cuts inside. They're going to get first dibs on that, you know, on that box attack. But with box to box balance, since you have these wingers that are worried about getting to the box first, you're going to have basically 4 players attacking the box with your wingers and 2 strikers, and then you're going to have your 2 center midfielders trying to decide who's going to go into the box and when. Now when we have both on box to box, it's going to decide which player is in a better position to make a run. So if everything's going on the right hand side, and then boom, there's a big gap on the left, Lampard's going to make that run. But then switch it around, maybe like everything's going on the left hand side, there's a big pocket of space on the right, Essien's going to make that run. You don't have to worry about both of them making runs at the exact same time and, you know, opening a big pocket of space in behind, because at the same time, once Lampard makes that run forward, as you can see with the green boxes, Essien is also thinking about defensively as well. So he's not going to necessarily abandon his position, because if Lampard steps up, that creates a bit of pocket of space in the midfield that Essien is now responsible for. And also just the fact that there's never going to be so much space where it's going to be 6 players that need to attack at once. So you never have to worry about both your center midfielders attacking too hard with having them both on box to box. So yeah, but like I mentioned, if you're creating a custom tactic and you have 2 center midfielders, I would not recommend having one on box to box and the other on whatever the case may be, whatever you want. If you're going to use box to box, put both on box to box or none, if that makes sense. Other than that, if you want to try something else, you can do one on holding or deep lying, and then the other one can be a playmaker, because the playmaker offers a bit more support horizontally. They might go wide a little bit more. They might support the center a little bit more, the left a little bit more, whatever the case may be, and they're just gonna move around more. But box to box don't really move like that, if that makes sense. They're focused on going up and down, and when you have both your center midfielders going up and down for each other as well, then you're just going to get a lot of really good link up. It's also really important that we have both on advanced forward here, because if we have one on false 9 attack, that means he's going to drop deep more than the other one. And we don't want that, because it means this player, Essien, is going to make way more runs than Lampard. But we want to be unpredictable. We want our runs to come from either side. And like I said, advanced forwards are still going to get a lot of link up. They're still going to drop deep and still try to support players. As you can see in some of the clips, it can be one or the other that drops deep, sends the ball for, you know, the midfielder that's making a run behind, and boom, you're off. But yeah, that's that. That's basically 90% of the custom tactic, because as you can see, we're using fullbacks on balance. And the reason why we use fullbacks on balance is because it's not like last year where you needed to have them on defend for the sake of guarding 4-2-1-3s. Seeing as the meta nowadays is like 4-4-1-1s, 4-1-4-1, 4-5-1, all that type of stuff, you don't really need to use fullback defend. You can use fullback balance to at least get them to help the midfield a little bit. Or we can have one on fullback balance, one on fullback versatile. That way when one of the fullbacks steps up, the other one tucks in. But that's up to you if you want to do that. Personally, I didn't really bother with this custom tactic, so yeah. And then obviously your 2 center backs, defender defend, goalkeeper, whatever role you want to put them on. I use goalkeeper defend because I'm too lazy to change it. And yeah, guys, I have a lot of fun with this custom tactic. I found it to be really effective and really efficient. And like I've covered before, this is one of those custom tactics that will basically always work. It's just a matter of making sure you have the players for it, because it might never be the best meta formation, but it's always going to be usable. That's why every single FIFA at the start of it, people are using 4-4-2s, because it's just that easy. And it's really easy to slot players in, because obviously there's no cam, and you don't need cams for this formation, so it's very plug and play. You can just boot up the game, plug in this formation, and you're going to have success whether you like it or not. Now, other than that, guys, if you have any other formations that you want me to try, or if you have any questions regarding this formation or any other, FIFA related concept, let me know down in the comments below. I'll try to answer them as soon as I can. For this video, that's all. If you haven't liked already or subscribed, go ahead and do that. Join my Discord with the link down in the description. But yeah, guys, that's all.